MTG Scoundrels. It's in the cardboard.
Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket, we have Ritual Goblins versus the resurgence of Living End. And of course, my low voice. Living End has really started to make a comeback in the format now that Wistfulness has been printed. Starting out with a Surveil land here. And deciding to put a Sink into Stupor into the bin. That Surveil being a Meticulous Archive. Here's a Cavernous Souls. That's going to be on Goblin. There's an Aether Vial, but that's going to get forced immediately. Forced Negation. Countering the Aether Vial. Street Wraith will be cycled. That brings us to 20 to 18. This is what Living End does. Fill their graveyard with threats to be brought back with the card Living End, usually off of a Cascade in some form. Here's a fetch land into a Birthing Ritual, which is a pretty good start for Goblins. Lets them fill their yard a little bit with items, specifically when they sack a creature for another creature that can also be brought back by Living End. That Curator of Mysteries getting cycled and put into the bin. And that Bloodstained Mire fetch found an Overgrown Tomb. Here is... Well, speaking of, here's Shardless Agent. After the third land drop. Some interesting cards that got cycled through there, but ultimately cascading into Living End. Which is pretty good here. Swamp Walk matters on that Street Wraith. And that's a flying 4/4 Curator of Mysteries. So the Goblins player needs to do something. We have a 2-turn clock showing here on turn 3. Guess deciding to go third Cavern here instead of taking 2. And here's a Mogg War Marshal. That's 2 Goblins. And here's a Mud Button Curse Tosser. Okay. So, on the Birthing Ritual trigger, if the Ritual Goblins player can find a 2-drop to sack the Mud Button Curse Tosser, that can at least kill the Shardless Agent. Taking a good few seconds here to see what to possibly get. You do have a 2-drop, you do have a 1-drop. So anything 3 and below is a possibility. You even have something that you could sack for a 1-drop. Decisions are difficult, though. Alright, sacking the Mogg War Marshal. Finding a Munitions Expert. Killing the Curator of Mysteries. There is a world where you keep the Mogg War Marshal and sack the Curse Tosser to also get rid of the Shardless Agent. But I guess just trying to make the opponent be a little bit more thoughtful about when they cast their next Cascade creature or Cascade spell. Attacking in looks like taking 5 here. Oh no, taking 3. So that'll be 14 to 18. Here's a Surveil land. Doesn't want another Aether Vial. You already got Birthing Ritual online. Here's an Ignoble Hierarch. And you have a third Aether Vial there. So that'd be why the Ritual player decided to go ahead and bin the other vial. Misty Rainforest getting cracked. Finding a forest. Guess that leaves up double endurance double green for endurance. But instead paying full cost for an Otawara. On the end step, but I guess... Alright, I guess both players here... I guess steps weren't exactly moved to yet. So the Mud Button Curse Tosser is going to get in. Or a little hasty on the Otawara, but the Otawara is still going to happen. Get rid of the Birthing Ritual. I'll leave us to 14 to 16, but I mean, there's still a board there, and there's still a Birthing Ritual in hand for the Goblins player. However, Living End, just going to keep cracking in. Taking another 3, that'll be 11 to 16. There's a Misty Rainforest. And just passing. File ticks up to 1. Verdant Catacombs flooding out a little bit, it looks like. There's the Birthing Ritual. Attacking in with the Mud Button Curse Tosser. Okay, so here is the Endurance. Endurance is going to block the Curse Tosser. That death trigger will kill the Shardless Agent. Specific about power 2 or less on death. Have a Birthing Ritual trigger here. Sacking a Munitions Expert for a Taster of Wares. Pretty effective hand attack card. Oh, and speaking of, hitting the Ardent Plea. That'll be exiled. Misty Rainforest getting cracked. Going to 15. Finding a Lush Portico. And we'll have a Surveil incoming as well. Keeping it on top. That can only mean... Oh, goodness. There is a Waker of Waves. Looking at the top two cards. Getting rid of the Misty Rainforest, attacking in for 6 here. No blocks, and oh man, found a Shardless Agent on the top too. And here we go, fetching off the Verdant Catacombs, going to 4. This is in response to the cast of Shardless Agent. Here's a Raucous Theater. So got a chance to surveil something good into the bin for this living end. Or at least that has to be the hope. Surveil says. Okay, that's a Lord. And here comes the living end. There it is. So, creatures will be sacrificed by being put into exile. Creatures from the graveyard will go into exile and come back to the battlefield. So the problem here is there's still 1 flyer, but it is 4 powered and Ritual Goblins is at 4. There are some ETB triggers. Looks like just only able to kill 1 Shardless at the moment. And the Hobgoblin doesn't have haste. I don't necessarily think there's a way out here. There's a tapped Blood Crypt. I think your way out is Munitions Expert, but I don't think that got, that wasn't drawn. So here you would need Munitions Expert off the Birthing Ritual, then activate that Hobgoblin to deal 1 damage to the flyer. Oh, doesn't look like it was found. If it was found, that would just be snapped off here. Nope, scooping them up. Game 1. An intense match going to living end. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. In fact, we recently hit 700 subscribers. So thank you so much to all of you who have tuned in lately. And hopefully you're enjoying the content. Be on the lookout. We are going to be having Modern RCQ Primer coming out here the next few weeks. So definitely check that out. It'll be going over all the key decks in the format, and possibly some sleepers as well. It'll essentially be the 2026 version of what you should be playing in Modern. So definitely check that out. Now, moving on to sideboards. From a living end perspective, definitely will be seeing Clarion Conqueror come in. Yes, that's easy for all of us to say. Mostly because there are activated abilities in this Goblin's deck that the living end player would like to turn off, including Aether Vial. So that's a good way to slow the opponent down. Now, you could also maybe see 2 Force of Vigor come in here as well, based on whatever hate the Goblins player is playing out of the board, just to shore things up. Speaking of, the Ritual Goblins player probably bringing in a certain amount of hate here in terms of Vexing Baubles and other pieces of graveyard hate. Should be noted though, Grafdigger's Cage does not stop living end. That's one thing we have all found out too many times. It definitely still applies. So don't bring in Grafdigger's Cage against living end. However, Vexing Bauble pretty good here if it sticks. Though they do have main deck Wistfulness now on the living end list, so that makes it a little bit worse. But still not a bad option to have. Moving into our sponsors, definitely check out our friends over at Arcane Artistry. They make wonderful food, clue, and treasure tokens in the stained glass style. Link to their Etsy is in the description below, and they've been featured over on the Spike Feeders and on EDH Hijinks, so definitely check them out. Also check out host of our channel, Grovewarden Games, a wonderful place to store them out. Link to their store is in the description below. And of course check out friend of the channel and artist of the channel, Sean Gerard, makes wonderful art, is open to new projects. Their Instagram is up on the screen, and their email's down below, so definitely check them out. And of course, last but not least, check out our socials. We are at MTGScoundrels over on Blue Sky, Twitter, and Facebook. Most active over on Blue Sky. We love when you guys interact in the comments, so definitely let us know what decks you want to see on the channel. And we'll try to get them on there for you. We try to bring up some brews here on the channel to keep things fresh as well. But RCQ season is coming around, so let us know what you want to see. And we are moving on here to game number 2. Looks like both players keeping 7, starting off with a Verdant Catacombs and passing for the Goblins player. Taking 3 from a sink into Stupor, playing it as a land, and Verdant Catacombs is going to go fetching. Finding a Raucous Theater. Surveil incoming. Living End, of course, being a deck that was featured as, unfortunately, a bit of a controversy. I say unfortunately because nobody likes controversies in Modern or any format, but at a RCQ event recently, there was a little bit of shuffle discrepancy, to put it lightly. Here's a conspicuous Snoop showing you Munitions Expert off the top, passing the turn, and that Ent is going to get cycled to go find a forest. But going back to the controversy, simply what I can tell people, shuffle your opponent's deck, cut it a few times, do something to it, and be very aware of somebody trying to quick play a situation of presenting their deck and just drawing cards immediately. Looks like Living End player might be deciding to do a different land instead of the one presented there. That's fine. This isn't a Comp REL situation. there is a breeding pool. Instead, going to hand. Probably just wanted an untapped land to be able to play on the following turn. But yeah, shuffle your opponent's deck if you have the opportunity. There's a Lush Portico. That'll surveil. Putting an Otawara into the bin and passing the turn. There's a Mogg War Marshal sitting on top. Attacking in for 2 after playing the Bloodstained Mire. Oh, deciding to hold up mana here. I maybe would have played that Mogg War Marshal, maybe not. Just providing more threats onto the board and making the living end player have to think about cascading early. There's a Clarion Conqueror. As we spoke of in the sideboarding part of this video. So the War Marshal going to get shuffled in here. And going to find, yep, a commercial district there. So surveil incoming. Looks like Aethervile's going to go to the bin. Reveal a Mudbutton Curse Tosser. That'll get drawn. Revealing a Vexing Bauble on top. Here's another Cavern of Souls. That'll be on Goblin. Alright, and a Sling Gang Lieutenant. Can't activate it here, unfortunately. Thanks to that Conqueror, but it does create 2 Goblins. So this is the moment for the living end player. Do you let Vexing Bauble hit the battlefield, or do you clear it now? This is a very good question, sitting at 18 to 13. Conqueror is going to get in. That'll bring us to 15 to 13. Alright, here's an Endurance. Exiling a Shardless Agent. So that's at least 2 creatures in the bin. We've kind of seen that be a magic number for Living End. Cycling a Street Wraith, going to 11. That's 3 creatures. Land for turn. 3 mana. Here's an Ardent Plea. That'll Cascade. Right into Living End. So that'll clear the board. And then bring back 3 creatures for the Living End player. And this is maybe where casting the Mogg War Marshal might have been nice earlier, simply so that way a Goblin is left in its stead. And the library gets put to the bottom, or the graveyard gets put to the bottom of the library thanks to the endurance coming back. Pretty good play for the living end player. So now 5 mana, potentially, and facing down at least 3 creatures. Bloodstained Mire getting sacked. Finding a swamp. That takes Harbinger out of the picture, if that was brought in out of the sideboard. Granted, that's kind of the least of the worries of the Goblins player currently. Here's a Mud Button Curse Tosser. There's a Munitions Expert. Ooh, deciding to deal with the Endurance here? And here's a Munitions Expert again. Might have been right just to kill the Street Wraith. There's a Wistfulness. Looks like 2 blue. So drawing 2, discarding 1. There's a Misty Rainforest. Attacking in for 4. Thanks to the Exalted trigger from the Ardent Plea. That brings us to 10 to 11. Drawing for turn. 3 mana for a Taster of Wares. All right. Exiling the Shardless Agent. Passing from there. Misty Rainforest is going to get cracked. Finding a Hedge Maze. That'll ultimately bring us to 10 to 10 here. Not that it necessarily matters, but the Ritual Goblins player is presenting threats. Alright, and food getting cracked. And hopefully the Living End player finds something off the top here. Okay, Curator of Mysteries, that's a flying 4/4. Attacking in with Street Wraith. That's 6 to 13 here. Lethal on board. That's an Aether Vial. And that is a very late Vexing Bauble. Do you try to draw out of it? Need exactly Munitions Expert? Nope, just deciding to scoop it up from there. It was a Bogart Trawler off the top. And that's game, set, match. Going to Living End over Ritual Goblins. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. And we will see you all next week.